Hi, John Lampe here from Green Shoots. In this video, I describe a technique I'm trying out for killing invasive knotweed with herbicide in late fall or winter when the knotweed is dormant. I'm calling this technique a cut rhizome treatment. I have not seen or heard of someone using this technique, although I would guess someone somewhere has. If you have tried it or something similar, please comment and let me know if you had success or not. Colleagues and I did try dormant stem injections into underground knotweed rhizomes almost 10 years ago. With this technique, a needle was inserted down into the rhizome through the hollow of one of the senesced or dead canes. Herbicide was injected into the hollow. This vertical half section of a small knotweed crown shows where the needle was inserted. Unfortunately, the technique only produced mediocre results. Others tried to replicate our technique and also had only mixed success. The technique I describe in this video involves some digging or excavation, so it probably is best suited to small sites or for cleanup work at larger sites. Also, the ground can't be frozen hard, so it can't be done in the middle of winter in locations like Minnesota, where I live. I did the treatment in November after the knotweed canes had senesced, but before the ground had started to freeze hard. The concept of treating dormant knotweed is not as crazy as it may seem. To control woody invasive plants, managers often do herbicide applications during the dormant season, i.e. in late fall, winter, or very early spring. Dormant season applications can be done at temperatures well below freezing. These treatments can be very successful. In fact, winter is probably the best time to treat most woody species. The difficulty with knotweed is that it is an herbaceous plant. It doesn't maintain live above-ground tissue in the dormant season like a tree or shrub does. That's why the thicket of knotweed in this photo is a combination of green stems from the current year's growth and dead stems from previous years. The site I picked to do this test was one where we had eliminated virtually all of the knotweed, but some straggler knotweed plants remained. Most of these isolated knotweed at this site were connected to rhizomes that go deep into the ground. It can often be extremely difficult to completely eliminate those isolated knotweed plants. I hope the approach I describe here is a way to eliminate the stragglers. The technique I used involves 4 steps. First, do a shallow excavation around the knotweed crown. The crown of the knotweed is where the knotweed stem comes out of the ground. Do the excavation deep enough so that you expose the rhizome or rhizomes beneath the crown. Second, try to clean the dirt off the rhizome stem as much as possible before you cut. This is especially advisable if you're using an herbicide containing glyphosate, which is what I was using. Glyphosate binds tightly with soil, and the soil will neutralize the glyphosate. Consider doing the excavation a day before you do your treatments. That way the dirt on the rhizome can dry, making it easier to brush the dirt off. Third, cut the rhizome with a pair of loppers or pruners. Cut the rhizome at a location on the rhizome stem where you will get the cleanest cut possible. I advise using an old pair of loppers because the dirt is very hard on your cutting blade. Fourth, immediately treat the cut surface with herbicide. For a treatment like this with soil all around, our Green Shoots foam should work especially well. If you used a brush, for example, the brush would quickly get dirty and contaminate your herbicide. After you have treated the stem, just be sure not to step on the treated stem or kick dirt onto it. In all, I removed crowns at 7 locations. I marked the locations with pin flags and aluminum tags for future monitoring. The largest crown I removed had 5 rhizome stems that I treated. In the scheme of knotweed infestations, this crown was pretty small and none of the stems was over an inch in diameter. Initially, when starting this experiment, I tried to do a cut and treatment where the cut was just below the crown buds. I only had to dig about 3 inches down to reach this level. However, the roots and buds in this area of the crown made it especially hard to clean the dirt off the rhizome. I did treat that stem, but was not confident that the treatment would be effective. However, if you were treating this stem with a soil-active herbicide like Invasive, the presence of the dirt would not likely matter. If you were using Invasive, therefore, you could also use a shovel instead of a pair of loppers and just slice off the top of the knotweed crown and apply the herbicide to the sliced off crown. What are the potential advantages of a dormant season cut rhizome treatment for knotweed? First, this technique directs herbicide to more distant sinks that normally are not affected by herbicide treatments. This image helps illustrate this point. It shows the crown with its crown buds. These crown buds are the ones that will grow into stems the following season. The lateral buds further down the rhizome are dormant until a signal is given that they should start growth. These lateral buds, it has long been theorized, are weak sinks that don't easily draw photosynthesis or herbicide to them. By excavating and removing the crown, all the energy stored there and all those sinks in the crown that otherwise would draw herbicide to them have been eliminated. Herbicide can then be applied to the cut face of the rhizome and travel to the lateral buds once the plant signals that they should start their growth because of the absence of the crown buds. A second advantage is that less herbicide can be used because so many potential sinks and so much vascular tissue have been eliminated. Third, disposal concerns are lessened significantly. Cut green knotweed stems can generate roots from each node under the right conditions. In the dormant season, the dried canes no longer pose a risk of rerooting. If you are in North America and the canes still have seeds on them, the seeds may be viable and should be dealt with. Consider clipping off the seeds into a bag for disposal, and then you can leave the canes on the site. The dugout crowns will still have live plant tissue. To be safe, consider placing the crowns in a location where you can monitor them and where they won't be moved off-site, for example by flooding if you have winter rains. Incidentally, researchers in the UK and Ireland found that crowns will desiccate and not be viable if stored in dry conditions at room temperature for at least 38 days. Therefore, you could also gather the crowns and put them in a trash bag and store them in your garage or shed for the winter. A fourth advantage of this cut rhizome treatment method is that it expands the treatment window for dealing with invasive knotweed. In the northern parts of North America, for example, it could add a month or two during late fall or early winter and early spring. In the southern parts of North America, it could add 2 to 3 months of treatment time. Thanks for watching. I especially hope people will comment if they have tried or decide to try the cut rhizome treatment method described here. Remember, when you remove all that invasive knotweed, consider replanting the area with native plants. All the best.